We pick things right back up with Ghoul. He is absolutely torching the battlefield with those hellish flames. 1 second he is standing there, menacing as ever. The next he just vanishes into thin air. The demons watching are already starting to feel it. A heavy, crushing sensation. It happens so fast. One soldier only realizes his skin is being pierced. He does not even see the blade. Ghoul is already behind enemy lines. He is burning the earth to a crisp, just scorching the ground. Zeke is completely clueless about the slaughter tearing through his vanguard. He is far too obsessed with Shuya Uun's barrier. But then Ghoul gets close enough. His aura spikes. The captain of the Wrath Demon army freezes up. His eyes widen. Pure shock hitting him in a split second. Before he can even twitch a single muscle, the young orc is already right in his face. He slams into him, caving the captain's skull right in. Ghoul puts every bit of rage he has into the blow. He is flattening the butcher's face into the dirt. Dark. Liquid tears are streaming from Ghoul's eyes. One attack, and the whole landscape is devastated. He drags the poor captain across the concrete. Dust and debris are flying everywhere now. Then it happens. A massive, earth-shaking boom. You can hear that sound all across the battlegrounds. Ghoul stands over his victim, his intensity still burning white-hot. He plants his right foot deep into Zeke Kanraki's head. This demon was so hyped up on his own power. Now he is getting bodied by a kid in mere seconds. Honestly, Ghoul is just built differently. Right? He stares down the demon who murdered Chief Garrick. Ghoul's fury flares up, and he stomps down harder. A sickening, loud snap echoes out across the field. That stomp unleashes a wave of raging flame. It forms a perfect circle around the execution. The fire is getting massive, dangerously intense. It is turning into a full-blown fiery cyclone. As the flames grow, so does Ghoul's hatred. He is done with these intruders. The blood orc inside him has finally woken up. All it took was the butcher's death and this sea of demon blood. Kali Anna turns toward the chaos and stops dead. She cannot believe her own eyes. The soldiers nearby are frozen, stiff in pure disbelief. Their invincible Captain Zeke is down and he is out for good. In just a split second, if you listen closely, Ghoul's heart and his entire body are throbbing wildly. It looks like he is struggling hard to master the scorching heat burning inside him. Just a few meters from the butcher's slaughter, Elder Gurren is screaming in excruciating pain. The monster known as Shuya Uun laughs maniacally at the massive size of the elder spirit beast. He urges the beastmaster to hang on as he draws it all out like getting skinned alive. As the elder's draconic spirit beast continuously gets shaved away from his physical form, Envy army mages are also working at full capacity to maintain the barrier, protecting this cruel process. Ghoul is within earshot of that dome of pain. He hears the elder roaring in agony inside. He slowly turns his head, needing to see exactly what those wretched screams are about. Recognizing the stern voice of his old Gramps, the dark clouds in his eyes finally clear up. That sweet, troublemaking kid resurfaces in his gaze. Ghoul spots the Envy Demon Army captain, smirking with a truly nauseating satisfaction. Immediately, the dark clouds return to Ghoul's eyes. Triggered by that despicable display of torture, he starts walking up, leaving behind the firsto, disfigured corpse of the butcher, to warn Shuya Uun, "Don't you dare touch the elder." Stomping forward, he reaches the outer rim of the defensive dome. Ghoul grunts and raises his foot high, cloaking it in flame, priming a brutal strike. Point blank. One kick is all it takes. He shatters what was supposed to be an unbreakable defensive spell woven by multiple demon mages. Ghoul's fire looks like it is actively eating and disintegrating the very core essence of that entire magical barrier. Shuya Uun is still grinning from ear to ear, thinking his personal mission was way too easy. But when the young blood orc closes the gap, with even more concentrated fire focused on his heel, the captain's cocky smirk completely evaporates. These aren't just your run-of-the-mill flames. Contained within is the same raw force that erased the butcher's life in a single second. The force of this strike, it might be even stronger than before. Shuya Uun grits his teeth, pure frustration written all over his face. His underlings were supposed to handle these pathetic interruptions. Now, the old demon is forced to cut his ritual short. He has to duck and weave, barely dodging the incoming strike. Even now, Shuya Uun is so blinded by his own greed. He craves that spirit beast essence more than anything else. Even as the impact threatens to crush him, he refuses to let go. Ghoul's attack creates a massive vacuum, pulling everything into its wake. It drags in every nearby demon, even warping the very portal. Min is sent reeling as the Baron's platform is violently dislodged. Elder Gurren is still caught in the chaos, desperately holding on. Thankfully, the sheer force knocks the old orc off the platform, but the damage is already done. The beast coating is fading. And look at that, blood is already streaming from his orifices. Shuya Uun finally finds his footing. But he is shaking. He is literally fuming with rage because his soul cast is ruined. He doesn't care about his soldiers or who caused this mess. All that matters to him is that his technique was cut short. The decrepit demon is completely lost. Unable to finish his work, he just can't extract the dragon from the Beastmaster. Min and the Baron are sent flying, landing right next to each other. They can barely process what just happened in the chaos. Everything exploded in their faces so suddenly. They're completely blind. Shuya Uun needs a scapegoat, someone to pay for this disaster. He starts throwing a tantrum like a spoiled child. See? He only managed to snag half of that precious spirit beast. This was his big chance to become perfect. And it is slipping away. Then, the culprit finally decides to show himself. Through the thick wall of smoke and dust, a figure emerges. And get this, he is already launching a full-force leg swing. Ghoul stretches his leg high, aiming for a devastating blow. Shuya Uun catches a split-second glimpse of the incoming attack, seeing the one responsible for ruining his plans. His voice turns icy. It all happens in a blur, too fast for most eyes to follow. But the old demon still manages to take a defensive stance. He dodges Ghoul's assault with terrifying, efficient precision, with Ghoul suspended mid-air. The real fight is just heating up, and Shuya Uun finally catches a glimpse of the threat. He spots the one responsible for ruining his plans. Shuya Uun's voice goes ice cold. Everything happens in a blur. Still, the decrepit demon manages to take a proper stance. He dodges Ghoul's assault with no wasted movement at all. With Ghoul suspended in midair, his attack falters, unable to move. He's completely at the mercy of Shuya Uun's next strike. The old demon plants his feet deep into the cracked concrete. He's bracing himself, putting every ounce of weight into the next move. Then an absolute explosion of raw power. He lunges, aiming a brutal kick straight at the young orc's side. Ghoul barely manages to throw up a guard at the last possible second, but it's not enough. Not even close. That demon's leg is massive, thick as the orc's entire body. The sheer force behind the impact is terrifying. Ghoul is sent flying through the air like a discarded rag doll. He's launched backward toward the distant mountains. Dust and smoke choke the air, rising up over the battlefield. Honestly, every single clash between them is just this destructive. Ghoul keeps sailing through the air against his will. He hits the ground, bouncing and tumbling with zero sign of stopping. Finally, the demon's momentum starts to fade away. Ghoul crashes down, dragging his body across the cold, hard earth. He skids past the scattered corpses of his own brethren. It's a slaughter. They're all just lying there, drowning in blood. Most of them didn't even get a chance to fight back. Chained up. Will Ghoul be the next name added to the pile of casualties? The losses Pube's village has taken today are just astronomical. The young orc struggles to push himself up, teeth gritted in agony, and through the haze, the demon starts his slow, menacing advance. You can tell right away, Shuya Uun is absolutely furious. Ghoul just ruined the demon's only chance to claim that golden dragon. That is a sin the Envy Demon Army captain won't ever forgive. Ghoul was on an unstoppable rampage, but now he's bloodied and broken. Avon Ahmad, that critter hiding in his mind, has never seen this. From his throne, Ahmad keeps urging Ghoul to get back up. He wants another round. But the orc is fading fast. The bleeding is getting impossible to stop now. And Shuya Uun? He's just lurking there, watching ominously. If Ahmad were in control, he'd love to pay this demon back tenfold. The demon army captain cannot bring himself to forgive him. Ghoul, who had been on a seemingly unstoppable rampage, now lies bloodied and beaten. Even that creature, lurking inside his mind, has never seen anything like it. From his throne, the entity urges Ghoul to do better, demanding he get his ass back up for another round. The young orc tries, but the bleeding is getting hard to stop, and Shuya Uun is just lurking ominously in the background. If that creature were in control, it would love to pay the demon back tenfold for this pain. The blood orc suddenly senses their movement. This wasn't the first time Shuya Uun had encountered a blood orc, but the last time, that was way back when he was just a kid. He never expected to run into a relic of that past tonight, and in the form of a child. No less. He declared it right there. Ghoul had just messed with the wrong demon at the worst possible time. A massive, fatal miscalculation, wasting his one chance to seize every ounce of that gold dragon. That was a terrible move. A straight-up sin. This hateful demon wasn't about to forgive that kind of slight. But just as he started to threaten the young orc, something happened. His heart started hammering, skipping beats, acting completely irregular. A sudden, violent shiver racked his body, and he couldn't stop it. It had to be the golden dragon's growth. Shuya Uun's body hadn't properly absorbed that immense power yet, and to think he'd only managed to steal half of it from the Beastmaster, that realization alone made the regret hit even harder. He braced himself, his fury over Ghoul's actions only climbing higher. He stood tall, proclaiming that no one in this world could save Ghoul now. Shuya Uun started to walk forward, eyes locked on his target. His sheer, electrifying presence was literally warping the ground beneath him. The young orc, still reeling from the damage, looked defeated. He started talking to Ahmad, his voice right on the verge of tears. He just could not do it anymore. How could he possibly fight that massive lump of angry demon meat? Ahmad shot back, his voice tight with pure annoyance. Did Ghoul honestly forget what these demons just did? Did he forget the cruelty that mountain of demon meat inflicted? He forced him to recall the broken, tortured state of Gramps. Suddenly, the flames flickering around Ghoul started to sizzle hotter. The dust settled, finally revealing the horrific scene. Chained up, slaughtered orcs lay everywhere in the clearing. Some had bled out from brutal dismemberment. Others were finished off by sickening, concussive blows. Ahmad challenged him again. Was this really the extent of his rage? Deep inside, the blood of the orc knew the truth. It wasn't enough. It could never be enough. They were one and the same, bound by this shared misery. The only path to vengeance was to slaughter every single one of them, exactly like they had massacred all those innocent villagers. Ghoul felt those raw, raging emotions tearing through his mind. He started trembling, every muscle coiled and ready. Ahmad had just handed him the only way to satisfy that burning hate. It hit him like a lightning bolt, giving the young orc a second wind. A much stronger, deadlier surge of power was rising up. And watch this, here is where the hunter finally becomes the prey. A feistier round was incoming just as everything flared up. The flames of hatred consumed Ghoul's tiny, battered frame. Ahmad's face contorted into a truly devilish, twisted laugh, seeking only pure vengeance. He cackled like a total maniac. He watched as Ghoul became consumed by his dark whispers. What comes after that initial explosion of fury? A serene, chilling stillness right in the middle of hellfire. Ghoul lets out one long, steady breath, centering his soul. He's holding it all together as the calm before the storm. That heavy tension slowly passes, leaving only focus behind. When he opened his eyes, he pushed his legs to the limit. He burst forward just like a bullet fired from a gun. Shuya was already expecting the little one to have energy left. He knew the kid had gas in the tank and responded fast. A massive bum rush of his own came crashing toward him. The lunatic even looked like he was enjoying this way too much. Seriously. Look at him. He's having the time of his life. His left knee was already extended to deal some serious damage. A single blow like that could finish the whole fight. Ghoul easily stopped that seemingly unstoppable momentum with his own leg. He's perfectly matching the captain's raw, overwhelming power. The immovable object has finally collided with the unstoppable force. A sonic boom exploded outward, clearing the field instantly. That blast was powerful, shaking everything for miles around. Unfortunately, our boy came up short in a battle of strength. Direct force isn't enough to take down a monster like this. However, he didn't go down like a helpless rag doll. He managed to steady himself and landed on his feet perfectly. Without wasting a second, he launched himself like a mortar round. He's ready to get right back into the heat of action. Shuya wasn't expecting such a lightning-fast recovery and retaliation. Ghoul landed a heavy kick right onto the decrepit demon's chest. Just look at the demon's ugly, twisted expression right now. You can tell that hit hurt like a total nightmare. Persevering through the pain, Shuya raised his shaking fist high. He gripped it as tight as he possibly could. He answered Ghoul's kick with a punch of his own. That strike would have certainly erased a normal mortal's life. The soldiers watching knew better than to interrupt this mess. They stayed back. They knew this ridiculous battle was insanity. Everything about this fight was wildly out of their pay grade. Throughout the whole scrap, Ghoul was getting clobbered everywhere. He's taking hit after hit from the captain. The leader of the Envy army didn't get where he is now without the brutal strength and years of experience to back it up. Nothing burns hotter than an old demon scorned. Sensing Ghoul was still breathing beneath the ruins, Shuya refuses to let up. He keeps the pressure on. He summons the golden dragon's power. Or at least, the half he managed to steal for himself. Tiny golden scales appear on his skin as he readies what looks like a final move. "The captain!" shouts for Suri. "His second seat, Lieutenant," she responds instantly, sprinting into the chaos, ready to receive her orders from the big boss. It looks like Shuya is still having real trouble digesting all that gargantuan power from the spirit beast. He wants an escape path to get out of this mess immediately. It isn't looking good for Ghoul at all. He might look like he's out cold, but that's a dangerous assumption. His legs are still twitching. Suri, meanwhile, uses her scepter to tear the fabric of space, opening a dimensional gate, a clean exit. If they can actually reach it, the young orc knows exactly what they're planning. He refuses to let them run without consequence. He grits his teeth, pushing himself to his absolute limit to prevent the envy demon captain and his goons from escaping after everything they've done. Shuja glares back, never letting Ghoul out of his sight. He's starting to feel threatened, claiming the boy just got lucky this time, but he's sure they'll meet again. Ghoul isn't hearing any of this. He's completely done with all the arrogance and garbage the captain is spewing while he's busy positioning himself for maximum momentum. Ghoul launches into the air like a ballistic missile. His guttural roars of pure rage fill the entire battlefield. Pulsing with raw heat and pressure, he begins his descent toward the ground at terrifying speeds, looking just like a meteor crashing into the earth. As Shuya gets swallowed by the dimensional portal, he warns Ghoul to pray that they don't cross paths ever again, or the kid will never see another sunrise. Shuya has some nerve to spout such empty threats while scurrying away like a cornered rat. The portal snaps shut, and the Envy Army posse is. Ghoul's massive meteor strike slammed into the earth but hit absolutely nothing, just empty ground, wasted power, and total destruction for no reason. Callie Anna watched the chaos unfold. She saw exactly how the army captain bailed, leaving his own men behind. What a total bastard. She was effectively on her own now, forced to lead the remaining troops, and they were all trapped with an unpredictable, terrifying factor. A small, feral red orc. Ghoul seemed to be running on pure, raw instinct now, uncontrolled, savage, and completely beyond reason. He slammed his head against the hard ground in pure, blinding frustration. He hadn't been fast enough to catch Shuya. Ghoul had been through hell in just a few short minutes. His injuries were brutal by any metric, but the pain in his body wasn't the worst part. The most agonizing thing was failing to kill and skin that bastard Shuya alive. A raw scream of regret, pain, and defeat tore across the battlefield. It was so loud it actually shook the ground beneath his knees. Elder Gurren slowly hauled himself up, his body trembling from his wounds. He was still reeling, weakened. After 50% of Grudem was stolen, he forced his eyes open and saw the little orc suffering in total agony. With the main threats gone, Ghoul slipped into a strange, catatonic state. He stood there, motionless, cloaked in the thick smoke of his own fury. Then movement. You can hear the slightest shift in the air. The majors of the Envy Demon Army had just been abandoned by their own boss. After risking everything for that barrier, they were left for dead. Now they could feel the menacing weight of the kid's aura crushing them. Look at them, try to run. They're desperately following their captain's example. They want out. But the unmoving blood orc sensed every single one of them. Ghoul channeled every bit of his remaining strength into his toes, and he launched himself off the ground with lightning-fast speed. Wrath and Envy soldiers alike were scrambling to escape this forsaken field. But it's their lucky day because that little orc is starving for demon blood. Ghoul's first target was already in his sights, and that poor soul had no idea what was coming. Ghoul focuses his remaining strength into his toes and takes off with lightning speed. Wrath and Envy demon soldiers alike are trying their best to flee this forsaken battlefield while they still can. Unfortunately for them, there is a little orc out there who is absolutely hungry for demon blood. Ghoul's first target is completely unaware of the threat. The strength and wisdom of the village hang in the balance. He was gasping for his final breath, then a kick with insane weight and momentum slammed into him. It sent the poor mage spiraling. And then, a sharp crack. The demon's head smashed right into the ground. Just like that, His body went completely still. Lifeless. Another demon stared at this little red killing machine, with pure, paralyzing fear in his crooked, wide eyes. He knew standing around doing nothing would only get him killed, just like his comrade. So he made a split-second choice, running for his life on those weak, shaking legs. He scrambled to escape. But like a heat-seeking missile, Ghoul rushed to cut him off. Instantly, aiming a devastating kick right at the straggler's skull. It was swift and brutal, honestly. It's the kind of execution that would get this video taken down. Kaliana watched the entire scene devolve into chaos. Pure annoyance written on her face. It makes no sense for an orc to have that kind of terrifying, tremendous power. They were being picked off by a kid fighting with the ferocity of a vicious monster trapped in a tiny body. A bright, full moon hung over Bubba's village, or at least, what remained of it. A demon with black wings and a twisted tail had been watching the whole slaughter, clearly intrigued by this sudden, unexpected turn of events. Everything was set into motion because of Shuya and his twisted schemes. The winged demon couldn't help but imagine how thrilling it would be to see the demon lord's face once he learned about this juicy, game-changing information. Looking down at the burning and village, the winged demon laughed with the exhilaration of a complete lunatic from the mountain peak. Enjoying a wide view of the carnage, he dove into a downward free fall, just seconds before hitting the earth. He flipped his body and snapped his wings open. The winged demon vanished into the night sky. Who knows what this means for the future? Kaliana still refuses to accept this crappy situation she has been forced into. Captain Shuya went rogue. And now Captain Zeke is lying there, drowning in a pool of his own blood. They were supposed to be the cream of the crop, the strongest demons in the army, but they were either slaughtered or driven off by a single young orc. Ghoul isn't looking so hot either. I mean, sure, the fire makes him literally hot, but those injuries are no joke. Elder Gurren's condition is even worse. He is coughing up bile and blood. The golden scales on his body are starting to dim. His breathing is slowing down, becoming more labored and ragged. That blood loss is pushing him right to the edge of death. Kaliana sees this and activates her soul cast on her spear. She still has her pride as an officer of the Wrath Demon Army. She refuses to let a kid run rampant, killing her remaining troops, priming her weapon for a finishing move. Kaliana spins and flares her spear. She builds momentum, hunting for that perfect angle and power level. One thing about her she never misses. She yells for her soldiers to move, knowing her attack will devastate the area. Before the spear leaves her grip, a familiar bloody ponytail whips through the air. A projectile of immeasurable speed zooms into the battlefield with deadly conviction. It looks headed straight for Ghoul, who is screaming like a trapped animal. But then, a fatally injured body runs into the frame. Elder Gurren is moving to shield the young orc from the incoming steel. He musters every ounce of remaining strength to intercept that sneak attack. Ghoul finally regains his senses as he sees the blade jutting out from Gurren's back. The spear lodged deep into the elder, though it only grazed Ghoul's shoulder, just a flesh wound instead of a fatal blow. And if you were expecting that attack to be Kaliana's spear, you'd be wrong. An attack of immeasurable speed zooms onto the battlefield. It strikes with deadly, cold conviction. It looks like it is headed straight for Ghoul, who is losing control and screaming like a wild animal. In the heart of the war zone, a fatally injured, muscular body suddenly runs into the frame. He aims to shield the young orc from the incoming steel. Whistling through the air, Elder Gurren musters every bit of remaining strength in his weakened body to intercept this deadly sneak attack. Ghoul regains his senses the moment he spots a bloody blade sticking out from the elder's back. It lodges into Elder Gurren's body so deeply that it only manages to graze Ghoul's shoulder. Just a flesh wound instead of a fatal blow. Now, I know what you are thinking. If you were expecting the attack to be Kaliana's spear, well, you would be dead wrong, because this blade, this belongs to someone much faster. Everything is going wrong. The Dark Knight is desperate, searching everywhere. He finally spots the Beastmaster, that mysterious figure. He speaks up, relief washing over him now that he's found his target. There it is. Grudem the dragon, the spirit beast whose life is tied to its master. If the master dies, the beast goes with him. Elder Gurren is already right on the edge of death, but that blade lodged in his chest is just speeding the inevitable up. He spits out a massive amount of blood one last time. You can see the air slowly leaving his body. With the very last bit of his orc tenacity, He tries to move his hand. It hovers near the speechless Ghoul. Then he grabs the kid's entire head, making Ghoul jump in shock. Elder Gurren starts talking to his longtime friend. Speaking straight into his head, he calls out to Grutom, or whatever is left of the spirit beast. Saying goodbye is incredibly hard, but they've been pushed to the brink, and there's nothing else left to say. His crimson skin begins dissipating into nothingness. Ghoul's green body returns, his eyes filling with tears as he tries to talk to Gramps. Elder Gurren has one wish. Just one final request. He needs that golden dragon to look after this young lad. The elder pleads for the sake of their bond as Beastmaster and Spirit Beast. As Ghoul shifts back into his original form, all those hidden wounds catch up. He collapses, hitting the floor hard as he passes out. Now, watch this. The Dark Knight yanks the blade from the elder's back. Orc blood sprays across the battlefield. Elder Gurren feels his organs being shredded as the steel slides out. He screams in raw, unbearable anguish. A few seconds later, the old Beastmaster finally closes his eyes. He fought valiantly, as hard as any warrior could. But it just wasn't enough. He died protecting the next generation. Ghoul feels it now. Realizing exactly how deeply the old man cared, he drifts back into unconsciousness, tears still streaming down his face. Kali Anna stands on the other side of the field, still clutching her spear. Her soul cast is completely wasted, and her thunder has been stolen by someone else. A few seconds later, the Beastmaster shuts his eyes tight. Elder Gurren fights with every ounce of his remaining strength, but it simply isn't enough. He falls in battle. He dies a true warrior, shielding the next generation. In that exact moment, Ghoul realizes just how deeply the old man cared for him. Then he slips back into unconsciousness, tears still streaming down his face. Kali Anna is on the other side of the field, still clutching her spear, feeling completely hollow. Her soul cast was wasted, her thunder stolen by something. Even with that mysterious figure standing there, Kaliana can't really complain. The Beastmaster is dead, all without her lifting a finger. The Dark Knight expertly wipes the thick orc blood from his blade, sliding it back into its scabbard with practiced ease. Kaliana finally gets a clear look at this culprit, who just appeared from nowhere to land that final killing blow on the Beastmaster. She calls the hooded stranger the Forsaken One. In distant lands where the pace of life is way less frantic than this orc territory, common people go about their day as usual, while one old man gets chewed out for being so incredibly cranky. He's just sour because he missed his chance to grab a bite of some dumplings. Even the demon settlements are just as chill, with two local youths busy comparing muscles and more. But the common thread connecting all these varied places is a single bounty poster for one specific individual. For those who dare to test their luck, bringing in the Forsaken One to the nearest guild could net 20,000 gold, dead or alive. Some newbie adventurers stare at the paper, their eyes glued to the astronomical reward placed on one person's head. It's the highest bounty you'll ever see for just a single guy. The newbies are brimming with unearned confidence, bragging and promising each other they'll take the Forsaken One's life if the situation ever arises. But Chris, a platinum-ranked adventurer, overhears their ridiculous talk and strongly advises them to abandon all thoughts of chasing that bounty. Seeing a well-known pro discouraging them from hunting a criminal just confuses the newbies. It is their job to do these kinds of things. After all, Chris admits that it is their duty to keep the peace. But going up against the guy in that poster is simply an impossible task. In his estimation, you'd need an entire army to even touch the Forsaken One, a revelation that genuinely shocks the newbies. The veteran adventurer adds one more piece of advice for them. If they ever see the shadowy figure of that criminal, there is only one thing anyone can possibly do. You just run for your life, because that fearsome legend is real. A mysterious figure just crashed the party and they mean business. They just dealt the killing blow to the golden dragon, and the Beastmaster? Gone. Just like that. Who would have thought the Elder would fall to a beast blade, not by demon hands, but by something much, much worse? To make matters worse, an envy army soldier mage starts screaming. He's warning the remaining troops that the dark elves have arrived. His loud mouth earns him a blade straight to the neck, just like that, down in one hit. Then the rest of the Nightwalkers start pouring in. They move with such lethal momentum it's terrifying to watch. The small fries don't even get a single counterattack off. Commander Camriel makes her entrance with style. She lands on the ground like a true superhero. Her orders to her elite crew are simple and cold. Let no one get past this line alive. Just spill demon blood everywhere. The Nightwalkers aren't called the elite of the Elf Kingdom for nothing. They are swift, perfectly coordinated, and absolutely efficient. Callie Anna's headache just keeps on getting worse. The arrival of these dark elves is a massive problem. Her troops, and she herself, are in no shape to fight. Each of these dark elves carries their own unique, deadly weapon. We have already seen Ron's and his multi-purpose dagger. It's attached to a magical string. Keep your eyes on that. Those strings swirl, wrapping around the Forsaken One's joints. He's trapped, completely unable to make any sudden movements. He's caught in an inescapable bind. Or at least he should be. But the enigmatic figure just stands there, totally nonchalant. It's like they aren't even worried about being captured. Layla, that gorgeous dark elf, represents the Nightwalkers in a brawl. Tonight, she might be facing the one person adventurers fear most. She knows this fight won't be easy for her. Honestly, this might be the toughest battle she has ever faced. Meanwhile, as one of the highest-ranking officers on the field, Kaliana commands her soldiers to collect themselves and pull back. But try as they might, they just aren't fast enough. A normal soldier demon simply cannot outrun a well-trained dark elf. That might be the toughest opponent she ever faces. Meanwhile, as one of the few high-ranking officers left on the front lines, Kaliana barks out orders. She commands her soldiers to regroup and pull back now. Try as they might, the speed of a standard demon soldier just isn't enough to outrun a well-trained force. She disgruntledly orders her crew to stop the pursuit. The elven Nightwalkers strike without a single hint of hesitation. They never mind getting their blades or gear stained with demon blood. But facing the beating Buddha? That is an entirely different story. That old demon's raw strength sits in a league of its own. Forget quick kills, those aren't even on the table right now. Foch knows defense is his only real move to stay alive. He starts doing what he does best, going on a total rampage. With reckless abandon, he lunges right into the thick of the fight. The unlucky Nightwalker who meets his charge stands no chance at all. The poor guy gets sent flying meters back, his sword shattered. Kaliana sees the opening and immediately pivots to keep the pressure on. She calls on Klaus de Bell to build on the momentum Foch just created. She needs to push the enemy reinforcements back while they are reeling. Klaus swiftly obliges, whipping out his elaborate horn to unleash a blast. He puts his heart into it, screaming into the horn with pure gusto. His voice gets amplified multiple times over, echoing across the field. A sonic boom rips through the air, shattering the Nightwalkers' formation. It stops their seemingly unstoppable slaughter dead in its tracks. Kelly spots one of the Envy Army mages and shouts a command. She orders him to provide cover, and here, hierarchy is everything. The demon army respects rank regardless of their creed or mortal sin. The mage immediately follows the lieutenant's order without a single question. Another surviving mage joins in, and the two start chanting fast. They conjure a massive smoke screen that swallows the entire battlefield. Watch this as the smoke thickens. The whole vibe shifts instantly. We see Kaliana calmly retreating alongside her troops, who are bolting for life. When the Nightwalkers finally clear the haze, their blades are drawn. They are ready to hunt, chase, and finish the job once and for all. But Commander Camriel has to begrudgingly order her crew to stand down. There is no point in hunting down those cowardly, fleeing demons now. They have something infinitely more concerning sitting right in front of them. Layla recognizes the Forsaken One, her face turning grim and pale. She asks the enigmatic figure exactly why he joined this bloody war. Meanwhile, the rest of the elven reinforcements finally reach the front lines. The blacksmith's rugged hands start shaking as she touches Chief Garrick. There is no point chasing after those cowardly demons. Why? Because there is an infinitely more concerning matter for them to deal with right here and now. Layla seems to recognize the Forsaken One. She grimly asks the enigmatic figure why on earth he would ever join a war like this. Reinforcements from the Elf Kingdom finally arrive on the scene. The blacksmith's rugged hands shake in sheer disbelief as she touches Chief Garrick's cold body. Ran is absolutely infuriated by the new arrivals. Golfin arrives with her spirit beast, but she's just a tad too late. She can't wrap her head around it. The strongest orcs gone, wiped out in such a brutal, senseless way. Tears stream down her face. Unstoppable, muffled screams of agony fill the air as the reality sinks in. Then, a thought hits her. Where in the hell is her son? Her motherly instincts flare up. Raw and immediate, she dashes off. Heart pounding. Desperate to find him, she reaches the center of the slaughter. Elder Gurren lies there. At a corpse. And Ghoul, his head is just swimming in a pool of blood. First the chief. And now her son is in critical condition. Ran arrives just in time to witness this tragic reunion. She checks the boy's vitals. She turns to Golfin, offering a breath of relief. The kid is still alive, he's just unconscious. But look at that face savagely destroyed. It's clear the young orc is suffering a hell of a lot of trauma. Still, he's fighting for his life. Golfin's grief instantly hardens into pure, unbridled rage. She eyes the Forsaken One, wanting to punch his lights out. He had no business being here, not welcome, not wanted. Yet he dared to appear. Thankfully, Layla steps in, holding her back from doing something rash. Golfin knows she can't let her emotions take the wheel right now. But man, it's hard to stay composed seeing the people you love like this. The Forsaken One finally moves. A single, swift motion so fast. He's basically invisible. By the time he slows, his sword is already sheathed. The magical strings lie there, cut into worthless pieces. He starts walking. Slow and deliberate. Each step carries an indomitable, suffocating weight. The Nightwalkers brace themselves, but even they aren't sure they can hold a candle to this menace. He just walks past them. Casual as you please. No drawn sword. No overt threat. Ran is absolutely fuming. They are the pride of the Elf Kingdom, and this guy just snubs them like they're nothing but dirt. So, he decides right then and there, enough is enough. Not by a drawn sword, but by their sheer arrogance. They are the pride of the Elf Kingdom. Yet they act like everyone else here simply does not exist. So, he decides to cast a forbidden spell. The assassin lunges, desperate to drive that dagger into his back. But Forsaken isn't having any of it. He isn't about to let some dark elf misread his casual stroll for actual weakness. He draws his blade in a blur of motion. Just like that, Rand's dagger shatters into a million tiny shards, scattering into the wind. The force behind that undetectable strike? It was so savage it nearly blew the poor guy straight out of his boots. Forsaken speaks up then. He's got no problem with the orc named Gurren, or the Beastmaster Ran, or anyone else standing here in this place. His real beef is with Grudem, the dragon god of protection. And his mission here is already finished. He doesn't care what these dark elves, orcs, or demons call him. The truth is, he's pretty much incapable of feeling their loss. He's just doing his own thing, sticking to his own code. Golfin's anger flares even higher. That Forsaken guy really thinks he can just walk away after doing something this unforgivable, without a target on his back. And honestly, that is exactly how he feels. No apologies coming from him. With his job done and his reasons made clear, the Forsaken One launches himself into the mountains in one single leap, leaving everyone there completely speechless. Golfin cuts in, angrier than ever, demanding the Nightwalkers explain why they didn't even try to stop the Forsaken One from getting away. That guy killed Gurren right in front of them. Layla, the closest one to the victim, speaks up. She reasons there was simply nothing they could do. Everyone knew, the Forsaken One, the Nightwalkers might be the greatest elf assassins in the realm, but they would undoubtedly lose every single one of their lives if they chose to go to all-out war with a monster like that. It couldn't be helped. That guy is famous for battling gods all on his own. Golfin knew that, too. She was just completely overwhelmed by raw emotion right now. The whole Bubba's village was burned down in a massive blaze of destruction, leaving behind only orc corpses, with pools of blood seeping into the earth. Sunup hit the clearing, revealing the aftermath of the night. The Nightwalkers were left to handle the cleanup operation. They had a grim job to do. Methodically, they doused the last of the flames and gathered their own. The fallen warriors were arranged side by side in a row. Out of respect, they moved them, while the dark elves scavenged. Anything of value that survived the chaos was pulled from the ruins. They hauled every scrap into one massive, jagged pile. Golfin grabbed a sturdy piece of cloth near the wreckage. She wrapped it carefully around her son's limp, unconscious form. With a few quick knots, she fashioned a makeshift carrying hammock. She had to get Ghoul to somewhere safe, away from this carnage. The only building left standing sat high up on a cliff edge. It was the highest point around. Lonely and untouched by fire. Inside, Gulfin saw something that just about shattered her spirit. Corpse of orcs. Everywhere she looked, these were her neighbors. The people she'd known her whole life, mutilated and bloodied by those heartless demons. Right at the front lay Ghoul's Auntie Girum. Cold and lifeless. She was completely covered in her own drying blood. Near her lay that familiar yellow uniform, the one the doctor's assistant wore every single day. She lay surrounded by jagged earth formations, summoned by that spirit beast she'd recently acquired. One look was enough for Gulfin to know the truth. It was sweet, kind-hearted Dora, who had died there. Behind them lay the rest of the orc village. The young, the old, and the disabled all gone. Even those who never picked up a weapon were slaughtered. They were crushed into the dirt, just for the sake of it. Gulfin crouched down, her hand trembling as she reached out. She picked up a small, discarded child's toy from the dust. Layla stood frozen, absolutely horrified by what she was seeing. These cruel demons had wiped out innocence. Even the children. No one deserved to die in such a meaningless, brutal war. Ran had always been a man who wore his heart on his sleeve. He felt everything deeply, for better or for worse. Right now, the weight in his chest was becoming too much. It was an unbearable pain that hit him like a physical blow. He dropped to his knees, looking Gulfin straight in the eye. He told her that he took full responsibility for the tragedy. He felt every single death in this village was his fault. If he hadn't come here to hide, they might still be alive. All these meaningless lives lost, all because he sought refuge. The dark elf watched him, knowing his guilt was his own prison. It'd be pretty brazen for him to beg for forgiveness now. His heart just can't carry the weight of this guilt anymore. So, Ran asks Gulfin to finally make some use of his life. Layla cuts in make use of it for what she lost. She reminds him his comrade already swore his life away to Lord Jeshrael. But Ran says his life is all he has. To atone for his blunder, he's just offering it up. And Ran is ready to accept any punishment they throw at him. If only it could ease the pain tearing through Gulvin's heart. Her voice turns ice cold. She snaps back. Making a mistake is one thing, but there's nothing in this world that could ever touch the agony she's suffering right now. Nothing can bring those innocent lives back, so Ran can just go ahead and do this. Let that guilt rot his soul. That's the bare minimum, the very least he can do for what he's caused. Walking away, Gulfin carries Ghoul out of sight. Once they reach the battered house, the mask finally slips, her tough persona breaks, and a mess of tears is revealed. Even in this pure anguish, there's no time to stop. They're short on people, so she has to stay strong. She pulls the bodies out of the wreckage, using a wooden wagon. Thankfully, Layla is right outside waiting, just waiting for Gulfin to pass by. She wants to at least help care for the injured. Ghoul needs attention, and time is running out. Moments like this remind us at the end of the day, Ghoul is just a kid. His home is gone, and that blood orc form is pushing his body to the limit. It looks like Layla has an idea to ease the pain. She climbs all the way up a cliff face to where an old, massive tree stands alone. Layla gently lays Ghoul down on the tangled roots, and then the chanting begins. Oh, great god of the forest, grant us the gift of nature. Restore what has been shattered. She sends her praises to Kaz Og Bhutan. Instantaneously, the green leaves of the massive tree start to wither. They die, drifting away on the wind. Layla has beckoned a forbidden spell, trading the tree's own life force, just to hasten Ghoul's recovery. She's desperate to heal the injuries tearing him apart, trading the life of a tree to hasten Ghoul's recovery. The burly orc soldiers work with heavy hearts tonight. After Layla hands the kid back, she explains how she closed his wounds. She took care of the worst of it, regulated the pain. 2. Ghoul is in a deep, necessary sleep now, just to recover his strength. Gulfin thanks her, then gets straight back to hauling her fallen people. Ran is still trailing behind her, following like a lost, sad puppy. Gulfin's scowl only gets deeper seeing him there. Ran is absolutely drowning in guilt. He just can't walk away yet. He needs to make this right, no matter how hard it gets. Gulfin finally caves, but she does it in the grumpiest way possible. She barks at him to move his ass and find a second cart. They have a lot of bodies to haul downhill, and she isn't waiting. It's a rough start, but hey, at least it is a start. The Nightwalkers have shifted their focus to the fallen demon corpses. You can see the pure heartbreak in Golfin's eyes right now. She and Layla gently lift Elder Gurren's body up from the dirt, just as they go to line him up with the other villagers. A deep, rhythmic booming sound starts to shake the ground. If you were waiting for horses, well, think way more dangerous. Sharp claws. Massive beasts. Get ready. Because another orc tribe is here. They came all the way down from the mountains on giant wolf mounts. These are the reinforcements from Butte. Though they are fashionably late. But Golfin? She's just relieved to see a familiar face out there. The commander leading the unit is an imposing orc woman. A real warrior. And here's the thing, she doesn't waste time. She hears the grim story from the blacksmith and immediately orders her army. They get to work instantly, helping with everything left to do. The burly orc soldiers are moving with such heavy, sorrowful hearts. You can see it in the way they swing their axes to gather logs. Some handle the heavy rope duty, while others sort through the hay. By the time the sun drops and the moon hangs bright, Ghoul finally wakes up. Though the wounds from yesterday are still raw. The Butte orcs labor through the night to build individual deathbeds. Every single corpse the demons took gets a proper resting place. Before the funeral pyre is lit, some final, solemn words are spoken, the weight of their grief showing in every swing. They gather logs for the dead, moving in silence. Some take on rope duty, while others handle the hay. When the sun finally drops and the moon hangs bright, Ghoul stirs, finally waking from his deep slumber. But the internal scars from yesterday's massacre remain fresh and raw in his mind. The orcs work through the night, preparing individual deathbeds for every soul the demons took. Before the pyre is lit, someone steps forward. A few quiet words are spoken in final recognition. Among the fallen, a true hero, Gurren the Beastmaster. He was once a ferocious orc. For centuries, he guarded the peace his people enjoyed. He stood firm, shoulder to shoulder with his bravest warriors. And now, he's gone. The legend finally comes to rest. The only ones to blame? The demons who mercilessly butchered so many, slaughtering innocents just to feed their own damn greed. Butte, the commander, urges everyone to remember this day, their fallen brothers and sisters. Every single one of them. The atrocities that befell their people will not go unsettled. They turn their sights toward the demons. A fire ignites in every warrior's heart. They scream their war cry in perfect unison. Ghoul watches the flames consume everyone he used to know. He can't help but feel he failed them. He failed them all. And they paid the ultimate price. Especially Gramps Gurren and Chief Garrick. They trusted Ghoul to complete the objective. They counted on him to save the tribe from annihilation. He even failed his perpetually angry auntie. He didn't even get to see her one last time. Ghoul feels the crushing weight of letting his family down. Even the younger kids on the block. It's all too much. He suddenly remembers the last words his auntie spoke to him. Before he left for his adventure, the waterworks start. Tears and snot stream down his face, blurring his vision. She just wanted him to make it home alive. Now she's gone. Elder Gurren's body rests atop the haystack as it burns. The pyre grows hotter, brighter, even in death. He looks at peace. Then, Ghoul recalls that twisted, arrogant expression. That demon army captain who stole the spirit beast. He tore it right out of the old orc. If he remembers correctly, that decrepit demon's name is Shuya Uun. That is the guy. He is the reason why all these bodies burn at the pyre. Ghoul's grief steadily transforms into pure hatred. Pure, unadulterated fury. As more of his people turn to ash, the rage takes over. Meanwhile, back in the Elf Kingdom, Carl Morez is still en route. He's headed toward the village, fully geared up for war. He is still on his way to Pubis, fully geared up for the journey. His stamina has been completely zapped for a while now, but at least he's almost there. Almost at the Elven Kingdom border. Just one glance tells you this guy won't last much longer. His legs are already turning to jelly. Wobbling under his own weight, he is huffing and puffing, gasping for air, like he just ran a marathon, and without a shred of proper training to back him up. Finally, this forgettable character crashes, kneeling hard to the forest floor, completely weakened, parched, and stuck before even clearing the elf territory. He desperately screams out for Layla, but his voice can't travel that far. Besides, there are far more important things happening in the ruins. Let's shift our focus to someone who actually matters. Lomi, with her wild, sharp talons and lustrous feathers. She is a perfect specimen. She's the white blur that leaves everyone else in the dust. But this time, A familiar face spots her while running past the snake. Lomi pulls off what we call a manual brake. She halts her unstoppable momentum, digging her feet deep into the dirt. Skid marks and smoke trail behind her as she comes to a sudden stop. She pulls off such a masterful maneuver for one simple reason. She caught sight of something beautiful out in the wild. It is a worm. Just a real, live one. Crawling along the ground, almost as if it's sitting there, actively teasing Lomi for a bite. The last time Lomi found an opportunity like this, she completely blew it. Some bird-on-bird interference ruined her chances entirely. But this time is different. She's faster and stronger than ever. Watch this. Just look at those lean bird muscles in action. She starts gliding across the ground at breakneck speeds. Thankfully, her neck is tough enough to withstand all that momentum. Her eyes are laser-locked on one thing and one thing only. The absolute tastiest snack in the entire forest, even without her dark elf master calling the shots. Lomi is ready. Her supercharged quick attack is looking just as sharp as ever. The worm is just chilling there, totally minding its own business. It's basically whistling a tune to the peaceful vibes of the woods, though that little song is about to come to a sudden end. A heavy, pervading feeling of dread consumes the worm in a heartbeat. Lomi is already closing in, her hungry beak wide open. She is ready to scoop up the snack of the gods. That supercharged attack still lands with that signature crisp feel. The worm, looking like a literal gummy, just chills on the ground, just minding his own business, living his best life, whistling some tune, completely at peace in the serene woods. But that vibe is about to get wrecked. Now a heavy dread hits. The worm feels it an instant. Gut-wrenching sense of doom. Lomi and her hungry mouth are already looming over him, wide open, ready to scoop up what she sees as a snack. The chicken gods, specifically them. She halts the attack just centimeters away from that heavenly taste. Sensing danger, Lomi starts flipping and flapping her wings. She really puts her back into it, avoiding a pretty heavy crash. The impact hits right where that worm was hiding. You want to know who's behind this ambush? It's the snake. Of course, he's been hunting Lomi ever since that goblin lair raid. What happened back then might have been a total failure, but this time, he's made sure it's different. The snake has dragged along a bunch of friends to jump a single chicken. First, a deer that looks like he's seen some brutal war stuff. Then an ape with a face that looks perpetually constipated. Not a great sign, right? There is also a boar who clearly has no clue where he is or what's happening. He just looks completely confused. One of the team is an oddly human-looking sly fox. He looks like he's up to no good, the kind of guy you'd keep your kids away from. And then, the snake himself. Nothing much to say there. He is arrogant, hungry, and honestly terrible at picking his prey. Finally, there is some kind of rabbit. I have no idea what that thing is. You guys help me out here? The deer asks the snake if the chicken is actually their target. You know, the one who bullied that slithery fella before? The confused boar chimes in. They really shouldn't underestimate this bird. After all, she wiped the floor with the snake, also known as Ebiog. Plus, he can sense a massive amount of disturbance on the ground right now. Ebiog protests immediately. He wasn't bullied. It was just pure luck. But he insists that with their numbers, they are definitely coming out on top. A classic winner-winner chicken dinner in the making. Lomi just watches those fools blab away to each other. As she gathers a massive glob of spit in her mouth, the cocky chicken then spits that stuff with maximum disrespect. To be honest, Lomi doesn't even remember the snake. She has no clue who any of these animals are or why they know her. But here is the thing: she absolutely cannot forgive them for one thing. They just denied her a delicious snack. You can almost see the spit gathering. She's ready to strike. Then the cocky chicken steps up and spits a massive gob, delivered with the maximum level of absolute disrespect. Truth is, Lomi doesn't even remember the snake at all. She has no clue who these animals are or why they know her. Total strangers. But that doesn't change the outcome for them. What she can't let slide is the sheer audacity. They just denied her a perfectly good, delicious snack. Under the strict laws, Lomi follows. Messing with her snack time? That is a capital crime, straight up punishable by death. Lomi drops into her fighting stance, wings flared out wide, locked tight on her target. But here is the crazy part. Just then, Elder Gurren was kicking off a total massacre. He had already launched himself straight into the enemy lines. His Grudem, that massive dragon spirit beast, took to the sky. It was so insanely powerful, like a beacon of pure light, splitting the dark clouds wide open. revealing the heavens to everyone. All of that went down right while Lomi was winding up. The angle she was standing at, it was a total accident. But it made it look like she commanded the dragon herself. That shockwave tearing through the war zone hit the animals hard. It knocked half of them flat. And even the toughest, oldest trees struggled to keep their roots in the ground against that wind. Ebiog the snake was the first to recover from the blast. When the others finally woke up, they all kneeled down together. Ebiog flipped from being a pure hater to a total Lomi fanboy. He even stood up and named her the new leader of the forest. The whole pack of animals witnessed her supposed power firsthand. Or at least, that is what they thought they saw. Either way, Lomi is the new monarch of this entire territory. She could not help but mutter, "Holy buck." Seriously? Lomi did not even have to lift a single feather to make that entire crowd of wild beasts bow down. Still, the novelty wore off pretty fast for her. See, wherever the queen goes, her followers stick to her. They follow her around everywhere. And honestly, it is annoying. While heading toward Booby's village, they spotted someone else. The Forsaken One was moving through the trees in their direction. They had all been drawn in by that dragon spirit beast earlier. Lomi and her crew knew better than to mess with him. That deathly aura he carries is enough to make anyone back off. The animals caught his gaze, and he just stared right back. Just that one look was enough to scare the lot of them. This cowardly group, they were already looking for an exit plan. As the group makes their way forward through the trees, closer to the village where Booby lives, they spot someone. The Forsaken One is moving through the forest, heading the same way, drawn by the spirit beast. Lomi and the others know better. They've got the sense to stay away from that kind of power. Someone carrying an aura that deathly? You don't mess with that. The animal party locks eyes with the Forsaken One for a second. He looks back, stiff and cold. That one stare says it all. It's enough to freak the cowardly lot right out. Act like mindless beasts without a single thought. Just throw the biggest, loudest tantrum they could. They tried. But the Forsaken One wasn't impressed. I'm sure of that, but at least they didn't make him snap or anything in that vein. Lomi just shared a look, a meaningful gaze. Eye to eye. The chicken and the man who slays gods passed by each other like they were peers, standing at the same tier of power. Forsaken just kept on his hurried journey while Lomi did the same. And under her breath, Queen Lomi prayed for her master to hold on. Because right now she was completely and utterly lost. A few days had passed since the invasion and destruction of Booba's village. Time to look at the broader world and where it's all heading. In the realm of humans. The heavy and dignified footsteps of Guildmaster France echoed through the halls of the Inizio Guild. He headed to the infirmary, where Red was getting patched up. And that lucky guy had a bunny girl for a nurse. But sadly, the other members of their humble party weren't quite so lucky. They lost lives and suffered heavy injuries from that demon scout attack. Spade, the platinum-ranked adventurer, made a surprise appearance to talk business with Master France. In his hand was an ominous card, the King of Diamonds. Flashing that card got him escorted by the Guildmaster straight to a hidden dungeon. Some poor sap was stuck in there with a broken leg, crudely splinted to stop the damage. It turned out that Slick, the greed demon scout, had been caught alive and injured. Thanks to the Guildmaster's quick move, Spade was brought in to get the truth, some really important answers regarding the demonic army that marched through the woods that day. In an unknown corner of the realm, a human wearing a golden crown and a brownie orc stood side by side. They turned around to welcome some guests. It was two old geezers, wearing orange and red tracksuits. That orange geezer? Your typical small fry. One elder was completely bald, while the other looked like an older, battle-hardened version of a Dragon Ball character. The king wearing the crown looked absolutely stunned at the sudden arrival of these two in the elven realm. Lord Jesheril looked as though he had just received some truly grim, earth-shattering news. Perhaps it meant the passing of an old comrade. In arms, a heavy blow for anyone receiving that report from his nightwalkers awakened something deep and slumbering inside the king of the elves. He swiftly gathered the strongest and brightest warriors his castle could offer, a roster of 5 impressive, formidable-looking generals. There was a woman, swordsman, who looked like she dominated men for fun. Another stood ready with the ultimate paladin build. matching seriousness to boot. On the other side stood a young man, in golden armor. He might have looked younger than the rest. But don't let that fool you, he looked like a machine. The other armored knight looked like he had been through some incredibly tough scuffles in the past. Worn down by all those jagged battle scars. The last of the 5 generals wore what looked like a deer skull mask. But it didn't hide his massive physique under that heavy plate armor. Back in the little village plagued with goblin problems, things had finally settled down after the total destruction of the Dark Lair. Osan and Rashan were back to their quiet, peaceful farming life. Miss Rika shone as brightly as the day before she was snatched to be a human sacrifice for a twisted goblin ritual. Speaking of those goblins, it seemed like the remainder of the dead King's crew had somehow survived the purge. They were still just as lively and rowdy as they were when they tried to drag Ghoul into their group. Few factions were aware of what happened to boobies. But one of them was the supposed reinforcement troops from Butte. The orc on the throne of Butte had just received news of that neighboring village's demise. And he wasn't pleased at all. He was so beyond pissed off that he cracked the letter cylinder in half with his monstrous grip. The troops that arrived late had a somber look at the expressions on their faces as they gather the blades of their fallen kin. Gulfin had never stopped working to give her people the burial rituals they truly deserved after fighting tooth and nail until the bitter end atop that cliff. Right in front of the old, withered tree that had finally died. To heal Ghoul, those weapons, stained with demon blood, were displayed. Gulfin kneeled down and gently rested a hammer on the platform. Ghoul followed his mother's lead and carefully placed a meat cleaver onto the pile of memories. This was their way of honoring those who had fought and fallen until the very last breath. Auntie Jerem's butcher's knife sat front and center on the platform. Now that the work is finished, the neighboring orcs must grieve and feel the regret in their own way. They packed their bags and headed back to Butte, haunted by the thought of how fragile an orc village could be against forces far outside of their understanding. It seemed like the god Nightwalkers were also preparing to depart, now that the threat, or at least what was left of it, had been taken care of. Gulfin didn't make a fuss. She was practically numb from the sheer pain of burying neighbors, peers, and loved ones. She just waved to the dark elves in farewell. Commander Kemuel gave a sincere bow, full of unspoken thoughts that both parties understood. With their mission in the orc village finished, the elite assassin crew of the Elven Kingdom was now heading back wherever the Lord's orders took them. Ghoul was still recovering from his injuries. There were still raw wounds all over his body, and he had a hard time walking. The boy was resting at the back of the wagon. Who knows where the wheel of fate will take this small group? That has to be one of the things weighing on the young orc's mind right now. Ghoul has been changed after everything he witnessed in the war zone. Can you even blame him? Now, how about peeking at the side of the demons, where Vice Captain Aizawa had made some semblance of recovery? At least he had finally regained the sharpness of his stare. Fosh the beating Buddha had finally returned back to his peaceful, old man state. Clostable still looked and acted exactly the same. Kaliana was quite different. She had led the remaining troops to safety. That was after the Wrath army took some heavy losses, including their big boss. Standing at the very top of the demonic food chain, a man sat with an immeasurable aura. When you placed him on the cool scale, he was off the charts. The demon on the throne simply proclaimed that someone had committed a grave sin against their creed. I would recognize the trio being accused they were behind atrocities in the previous invasion. Suri men, the Baron, and their scumbag of a boss. The demon on the throne demanded a detailed explanation from his pet winged demon, straight from the Envy Army captain's mouth. If you thought Shuya Uun would go back to being a decrepit old man after being a literal purple Hulk, you're wrong. The bastard had turned the clock back, looking a lot younger and far more buff than he was before. Envy Captain Shuya Uun was going to be a problem. I could already feel it. Every time Ghoul closed his eyes, the image of Shuya Uun draining the elder spirit beast played out in his mind. He felt utterly helpless. Ghoul just wanted it to stop. His teary eyes and innocence made it hard for him to witness such inhumane acts. He screamed and pleaded for the old man's suffering to cease. To no avail. The screams of agony just got louder. In Ghoul's dream, the longer it went on, The redder and bloodier the floor he knelt on became. One moment, he saw Gramps being torn apart by a sinister demon. The next, he was in a field surrounded by corpses piled up by the invasion. Then he was back with Elder Gurren. Shuya Uun was not in sight. But the damage was done. Blood had been spilled and the pain could not be taken back anymore. Ghoul remembered the cranky old man. They try to find a plan, but it's completely useless. The screams of agony only get louder, cutting through the air. In Ghoul's dream, the nightmare just keeps dragging on. The floor he's kneeling on gets redder, soaked in more blood. 1 second he's seeing Gramps getting torn apart by a demon. The next, he's back in a field, surrounded by piles of corpses, all left behind by the invasion. A total slaughter. Then he's back with Elder Gurren. But Shuya Uun is nowhere in sight. The damage is already done. Blood is everywhere. That kind of pain? It doesn't just go away. It lingers. Ghoul remembers the cranky ones, trampled and taken from their home. The old man pleads with his final breath for Gru Tom. He begs him to watch over the young boy, just for the sake of their long, deep partnership. But the kid? He doesn't understand a thing right now. In his mind, Shuya Uun looks even more grotesque, like a monster that will always linger in the shadows. He's haunted by the fear of the day that demon strikes again. The series of disturbing nightmares is suddenly cut short by a flash of cold steel. The unfathomable sharpness of the blade from the Forsaken One. It spills orc blood, ending the cursed war for now. Ghoul snaps his eyes open, sobbing uncontrollably. After living through such a vivid, intense dream, he's shaking, just totally overwhelmed by it all. The people around him look mortified for the boy. Ran sits beside him, reaching out with a gentle touch. He places a steady hand on Ghoul's shoulder, trying to make sure the kid is actually all right. Ghoul realizes he was just trapped in a hyper-realistic vision of what happened that night. He tries to be tough, saying he's fine. But Layla and Gulfin aren't buying it. Not for 1 second he was screaming in his sleep. His mom pulls him into a tight, protective embrace, and Ghoul starts whimpering all over again. As Gulfin assures him that it's okay to be broken, the young orc completely unravels into a sobbing mess. He's crying harder than ever, letting it all out. The poor kid has been through way too much trauma. Thankfully, he has his mom right by his side now. She's a massive help in comforting Ghoul through this, even though she's clearly suffering from all the losses too. It's a heavy moment. They're all just trying to survive. Finally, their wagon reaches Boot, the definitive orc city. It's a settlement much larger than Booba's village. The architecture here leans toward a much edgier style, but the walls are tall, thick, and incredibly strong. The wagon slowly rolls through the city gates, escorted by a group of heavily armed soldiers. Citizens wait by the entrance, eyes on the road, eagerly awaiting the return of their reinforcement unit and the arrival of these mysterious new guests. Doc Thunder, the chieftain of Bate, steps out himself. He leaves his office to welcome them with open arms, but the situation here doesn't really call for a celebration. As Gulfin, Ghoul, Ran, and Layla finally step out, he hopped off the wagon, making sure to pay his proper respects. To the city leader, Doc Thunder might have looked like a brute, but he and his crew were actually respectful and returned the gesture. Gulfin finally broke the silence, personally giving the chieftain the full rundown. He explained exactly what happened during the war. Seeing that Elder Gurren wasn't on the wagon, Dak figured it out. The Beastmaster didn't make it out of that hell alive. Gulfin recalled how the cruel demons burned Boobas to the ground. They showed no mercy, killing every last orc in their path, scouring the area. They even slaughtered innocent children. Dak placed his hands on her shoulders with a comforting, gentle tap. His palm was big and strong. Then he tightened his grip, a silent signal. He understood the weight of it all. The chieftain had one major regret. Despite his constant, desperate urgings, Elder Gurren seemed fully intent on cultivating a culture of peace rather than actually keeping his men sharp and ready for battle. As a result, he threw away his life and his people. Hearing that kind of talk from a total stranger didn't sit right. It really burned Ghoul up inside. How dare this bastard badmouth the Elder and tarnish his memory? He clenched his crutch tight. Chief Dak was actually amused by this. He could sense the anger directed right at him, but he didn't rebuke or scold Ghoul for it. In fact, he liked that the kid had some real fire. That's because Ghoul isn't the only one feeling that anger. Everyone is, and here in Butte, they have been ready. Doc increased his volume, letting everyone nearby hear him clearly. This was a proclamation: the orcs of Boot are ready. They are prepared to fight for the honor once stolen from them. Now watch this. He wants Gulvin to hold him to this promise. They will strike back against the demons causing so much suffering. Doc Thunder raised his hand, urging his people to sound out. Their war cry echoed, instantly bolstering morale and pumping up the crowd. Hoga Baruga forever. The first place the party swung by was the Boot Smithy. It was an extremely busy, important spot for the entire city. He looks at Gulfin, needing him to hear what comes next. He needs a promise, a vow that they'll fight back. They have to strike against the demons who caused this suffering. So much grief packed into one single night of terror. Doc Thunder raises a hand, signaling for everyone to listen up. He urges his people to let out their unified war cry. It's all about morale now, pumping up the entire crowd. Hoga Baruga is the first stop they make in Butte. They swing by the Boot Smithy, and the tension is extreme. Way different from the ones back in the Elf Kingdom. And that janky setup in Boobies? Not even close. This place was grand, truly intimidating. Inside, Butte's resident blacksmith was hard at work. It was Gulfin's longtime comrade, Gareth Muck. Finally seeing a familiar face cheered her up. For the first time in a long while, she felt at ease. They'd collaborated on smithing all kinds of weapons before. He looked up, noticing she hadn't come alone. Being accompanied by dark elves was honestly pretty weird. Ran and Layla's kind were rarely ever seen around these parts, but they were well trained. The Nightwalkers immediately bowed with total respect. They extended formal greetings to the city's master smith. Gareth Muck was clearly pleased by the respectful gesture, but then he spotted one visitor he didn't recognize, a little kid, just standing there in silence. Gulfin kneeled down and properly introduced her son. The kid didn't even twitch a single facial muscle. Gareth Muck kneeled too, checking Ghoul out head to toe. He had no idea Gulfin had a son, but the kid looked way too skinny. In Butte, muscles were everything. The only thing that mattered. Gulfin decided to slam her buddy's back. She put as much power as she could into that casual slap. It looked like they'd be crashing at the smithy for a while. Gulfin wanted to see their rooms. Gareth Muck answered back with a slap of his own. He laughed, pretending he'd almost forgotten to show them the place. It was all fun and games for these two. Still, Gareth Muck felt honored to host such a legendary smith. As she went off for a tour, Ghoul wanted to head out. Gulfin understood. She gently reminded him to try his best not to get lost. Ran wanted to tag along, but the young orc insisted on being alone. That took the dark elf by surprise. Since when did this kid start acting so moody? He was being awfully sullen today. Regardless, Ghoul headed out to explore the city. He walked off, carrying nothing on him but the clothes on his back. And here's the thing, you could tell he was planning something big. He kept his head down, blending into the busy crowds. No one noticed the young orc slipping through the shadows. The city was huge, but he knew exactly where to go. Every step he took felt like he was walking into a trap, leaning on his wooden crutch. Ghoul took in the strange sights. Seeing the burly orcs of Butte, he realized just how much this place felt like home. Ghoul walked on, step after step, lost in his own thoughts. Eventually, he reached the city gates. The gate guard paused, double-checking if the kid would really be fine out there alone. The boy respectfully answered that he would be just fine. Mr. Gate Guard took a long second to study Ghoul. He seemed to be weighing the risks in his head. At the end of the day, he simply let the kid wander off. Looking at him, it was clear the boy desperately needed some space. The strange terrain and ecology near this orc settlement were entirely foreign to him. Ghoul passed by animals he didn't recognize. Pushing forward, he traversed wide stretches of land he had never seen before. It felt like a different world compared to what he knew. A colorful bird kept pace with him throughout his journey. He stayed wrapped in a sense of silent, deep contemplation. The mood was serious and meditative right until the bird landed. It perched right on his bald head, chirping aggressively. When that colorful bird finally flew away, it left something behind. A nice little gift was waiting on Ghoul's head, a very stinky one. Even that ridiculous bit of tomfoolery wasn't enough to snap him out of it. He stayed locked in his pensive state, eyes fixed ahead. He just kept on walking. Bird poop and all, he pushed into a dense, wooded area. Sensing something nearby, Ghoul had walked so far. For such a long time now, the trees that once shaded him from the sun were changing. They formed a thick canopy, completely obscuring the moonlight above. Finally, he reached up and grabbed the mess on his head. The old Ghoul would have made a huge scene about a disaster like this, but he had come so far now. changed in ways he couldn't explain. He barely recognized this magical place at all anymore. He looked at his hand, noticing the sticky remnants left over. There was still some gunk stuck to his scalp. It honestly looked just like a tiny, misplaced Hershey's Kiss. After tossing the bird excrement aside, he stumbled upon a tall hill. Seeing the elevation rise, his mind drifted back. It reminded him of days when all he could think about was climbing. He lived to conquer the highest, toughest peaks around. Now watch this, here comes the nostalgia. He wanted to scream his heart out from the top, just to feel alive. In hindsight, those might have been his best memories. There is an unmatched feeling in finding total freedom, shouting your name into the boundless expanse of the wild. He remembers his own cheesy monologues from back then. He used to think this magnificent view was reserved only for him. All the greats were watching. And soon he would journey out, heading for the lands beyond the horizon to be known as Ghoul, the mighty conqueror of mountains. Just saying those ambitious words used to give him a boundless sense of considerate happiness. But calling himself Ghoul the Great, right now? It just sounds like the biggest, worst joke possible. Maybe great at getting lost would be a more apt description. All that self-deprecation and the slow decline of his confidence in himself literally tripped him up. But he was distracted. Actually, it felt more like a kick straight out of the afterlife. Courtesy of his favorite auntie. Ghoul grimaced. Now he was sure he was really lost. He looked angry. But at least he didn't look empty anymore. He threw his crutch away. It was just a reminder of how weak he truly was. So, good riddance. Ghoul continued to walk deeper and deeper into the mysterious woods, with the faint light of fireflies as his only guide. It was already dark. And by this time, Auntie Jerome would be getting ready to kick his ass back home if he failed to bring a single wyvern egg back. For a moment, he really thought he'd get scolded, or maybe chased, by a meat cleaver like always. But no. That won't happen again. Ghoul started sobbing uncontrollably, realizing that things would never be the same. Boobas had been wiped out. And along with the orcs were all the memories and the routines that he knew and loved. Snot and tears obscured Ghoul's vision as he continued letting it all out. Unbeknownst to the young orc, two figures were hiding in the background, observing. When he got close enough, Ghoul started noticing that something was amiss. He looked at the two hidden figures, and honestly, it looked like they were way more scared of him than he was of them. They stepped out of the dark, revealing some sort of fox-humanoid hybrid. The bigger one had tattoos, and the smaller one wore light armor. Upon seeing what they looked like, Ghoul was all the more surprised, shocked and scared at the same time. The fox duo held each other in fear of what was to come, not realizing they were all just yelling in fear for no reason. After a few minutes, things settled down. The light fox. It was nothing serious, they were just startled by Ghoul showing up out of nowhere. That is all. They even managed to pick up his discarded crutch along the forest trail. Light Fox actually urged Ghoul not to toss his stuff away so willy-nilly. Poor guy got beaned by that crutch earlier. He still had a pretty nasty bump on his head from getting hit out of the blue. Ghoul could only scratch his cheek. Looking totally sheepish, he apologized to his new buddy. Heavy Fox shifted the conversation over to the young orc. He asked him what on earth he was doing in this spooky place all by himself. While they were at it, Heavy Fox told Light Fox to get a fire going. It was already getting pretty chilly out here in the woods. It was about time they set up camp for the night anyway. After building a solid bonfire in a decent clearing, the three of them just hung out. They shared a few moments of peaceful silence, just soaking in that warmth. Ghoul finally broke the quiet. He admitted he had never seen talking dogs before. Being called dogs? That immediately offended the duo. They are part of the proud family of foxes, they are nothing like dogs. Ghoul was still a bit skeptical about that whole claim. He reached out to touch Heavy Fox's scruffy face to see for himself. At first, he did not like that at all, but as Ghoul kept scratching the back of his head, it became pretty obvious. This guy actually liked it. A lot. Ghoul finally admitted he was lost. He is not from around here, so he had no idea where he was going. As it turns out, the foxes are not from around here either. They might be strangers to these woods, but they know their way around well enough. Let's just say they are hunting for things that are actually worth some money. They made one thing very clear: they are absolutely not bandits. Heavy Fox immediately rebuked Light Fox for even bringing up the B word. They are already struggling to keep a clean reputation, and this dumb fox keeps on ruining it for both of them. Watching their dysfunctional dynamic, Ghoul let out a genuine laugh. It was the first time he had really laughed in a long time. Heavy Fox started worrying that Ghoul thought they were a total joke. Well, it was not much of a loss, since the Orc Kid was not carrying anything of value. But wait, hearing that word, Orc Kid, made the Fox duo suddenly freeze up. He's trying so hard to clean up his name. But that idiot, Fox, just keeps ruining everything. Watching the way those two bicker, Ghoul finally lets out a laugh, his first in ages. The Heavy Fox looks worried now, probably terrified that Ghoul sees them as nothing but a joke. Honestly, it's not much of a loss, seeing as that little orc is carrying absolutely nothing of value. The moment he actually voices those words, the Fox duo freezes up completely. They start weighing the implications of what they just heard. Heavy and Light huddle together, terrified, and scramble to put some distance between them and Ghoul. The young orc panics too. He thinks some hidden enemy is lurking right behind his back. The Fox duo asks him in a trembling voice if there are more orcs waiting in the woods. They're terrified that Ghoul is just being used as bait for an ambush. Ghoul insists he is completely alone, which finally settles their nerves a little. The kid is just confused. He asks them, "What is the matter with everyone?" Well, the orcs around here are known for being absolutely intense. Poot is famous for producing orcs with massive muscles who will slap you from across the field. Just the thought of it is enough to make any bandit start shivering. Light Fox thinks their city ironclad boot is just as badass. Light gestures in the air, sketching out a shape and giving it a firm slap like a true man of culture. Then the duo starts howling into the wind, snouts pointed straight at the moon. They insist they aren't dogs. But honestly, that really isn't helping their case at all. Ghoul admits that orcs are truly amazing. They're a bunch of strong, dedicated warriors. Maybe he can't say the same for small ones like himself. Poot is his destination too, and he needs to find a way back home. These foxes might be his best bet, and he hopes they can guide him there. But get this, they wouldn't dare go anywhere near that place. Light Fox suddenly drops the act, getting serious, and asks what brought him out here all alone. The answer is simple: he just wanted to clear his head of something painful. Light playfully banters that they definitely did not see him crying in the dark earlier. Ghoul hasn't fully processed his own emotions yet, but he's trying. Light is sure that Ghoul can handle anything as long as he keeps moving forward. He has to push with all his strength, or he will just get stuck in this pain forever. Hearing such unexpectedly wise words from these two non-bandits actually cheers him up. The same can't be said for the smaller ones like himself. Poot is his goal, too. He really needs to head back, and maybe these foxes could actually be of some use. They know the path and could guide him there, but they wouldn't dare step foot anywhere near that place. Suddenly, the Light Fox gets serious, looking him in the eye, and asking what brought him out here in the middle of the woods all alone. The answer is simple enough. He just needed to clear his head of something painful. Light shifts to a playful tone, teasing him about how they definitely didn't see the kid crying in the dark. Ghoul hasn't fully processed the weight of all that yet, but whatever it is, he's still carrying it around. Light is certain that Ghoul can find his own way, as long as he keeps pushing forward without ever stopping. He has to move with everything he's got, unless he wants to stay trapped in this feeling forever. Hearing these surprisingly wise words from such unlikely bandits actually cheers him up. Ghoul and Heavy start their night, but before they make a move, they have plans. Fox has something amazing to show Ghoul. These peppers, the new precious stuff, you could even call it the good stuff. Ghoul scans the peppers over. He can't shake this strange feeling, like he's already seen this plant in his auntie's book of herbs and spices. Light's mood brightens up. Are they really going to cook these? Ghoul prefers meat, honestly, but Light insists this stuff is perfect for clearing your head. You know how it is. Have you ever had something so spicy? So spicy that it makes you forget all your problems? These peppers are so hot, maybe you'll even see the gods. Light Fox doesn't waste another second and tosses a pepper into his mouth. He chomps down hard, strong flavors coating his taste buds instantly. He's used to the heat by now, calmly letting smoke pour out through his snout and ears. They offer a piece to Ghoul, urging him to just take a bite. Ghoul is down to try it, so he goes for it and eats the whole thing. Unlike Light, he has a really tough time handling it. He coughs and coughs until the smoke finally leaves his system. Light laughs, telling him to take it easy while Heavy grabs some water. Ghoul gulps down the bottle like he's been stranded in the desert for days. With some relief, he asks the Fox duo exactly what kind of pepper that was. Moments later, he stops caring about the answer. He starts feeling like he's floating in a total stupor. Watch the trees, they're actually bending and rotating. Heavy starts panicking. It turns out, instead of water, he accidentally gave the kid the elixir, and that was their last bottle, too. But there's no reason to worry, they have plenty left to share. Emptying the elixir bottle, the Fox duo starts howling to the night sky again. With the blissful blankness of the pepper and elixir combined, the trio feels compelled to sing. A very suspicious cover of Young, Wild and Free starts up. This unlikely group dances and sings the night away. For the first time in forever, Ghoul finally seems like his old, happy self again. They've been at it for a while now, just singing their hearts out. They poured the rest of the elixir, draining the bottle dry. The Fox duo began howling at the night sky once again. When that blissful, hazy mix of pepper and elixir hit them, the trio felt compelled to sing a really suspicious cover. Young, Wild and Free, straight from Snoop Dogg and Wiz Khalifa. This unlikely group danced and sang the whole night away. You can tell for the first time in forever, Ghoul feels like his old, happy self. They kept on singing for a while, just belting out his name. Then it hit him like a lightning bolt straight to the head. It was the Booby Kids. It's a total vibe though. Wiz Khalifa might actually copyright strike us for this one. Anyway, it's just like Ghoul making friends with total strangers just to have the night of his life. But then, the next morning hits, and it's pure tragedy for poor Ghoul. His head feels like it's being split wide open. The duo figures it's just the spicy food, nothing to really worry about. Right? Today's the big day, they finally reach Poot, so Ghoul can finally head home. As they get close enough to spot the city gates, the Fox pair just wanders off. They're heading on their own merry way, to who knows where. Waiting right outside those walls is Gulfin. She's been standing there forever, worried, absolutely sick about her child. As soon as Ghoul gets close, she starts laying into him, yelling at the kid for disappearing to God knows where and scaring her half to death. Ghoul's antics earn him a solid bonk right on his skull. Just perfect, right when his head was already throbbing from the night before. After that, Gulfin softens her tone just a bit. She warns her son that some dangerous people are inside the city looking for him. Suddenly, Ghoul hears some familiar voices calling his name. It hits him like a literal lightning bolt right inside his head. It's the group they actually managed to survive, along with Bob the Builder and Lozen. Ghoul immediately starts tearing up the second he sees his comrades. He really thought they were all dead, that he'd never get to cause trouble with them again. The kid tosses his crutch aside and dives in to hug his boys. Honestly, seeing them all crying like that is a total heartwarming reunion. Even if, let's be real, Ghoul smells like absolute garbage right now, they actually managed to survive. Right alongside Bob and Lozen, Ghoul immediately started tearing up at the sight of his comrades. He'd been sure they were dead, convinced he'd never get to cause trouble with them again. The kid didn't even hesitate. He threw his crutch aside and dove in to hug his boys. Everyone was bawling. Such a genuine, heartwarming reunion. I know, it's a beautiful moment, but man, Ghoul seriously smells like total crap. He was ready for a heartwarming reunion, but then the Ghoul hits him. It smells absolutely rotten out here.